Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today I bankrupt once again by Jake and Fluff.
What's going on, y'all?
What's happening, beautiful people?
And today our matchup is me versus Jake. This is actually our pre-release event, so we are kind of doing one last tournament before we actually get to use the fun Zenkai stuff. So I brought AoD, and Jake has brought in Syn Shenron. Like always, his buttons down below. Feel free to click them, they're there for a reason. But let's get into today's matchup.
So, Bancroft and I were doing a little exchanging of words before this match. So, just a little friendly back and forth. After last week, there were some kind words exchanged between us, we'll say, and like we both got our champion mats out. Like this match is a little bit greasy even before it starts.
I didn't even realize you had your champion mat. Damn, I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, this is an interesting matchup for me, where back when the was it 3 sets back to what 10, 11, and 12 or whatever it was, of Sin coming out. I think I played against that deck so much because Fluff's just like, all right, I got a new take on it. All right, new cards are out. Oh, we gotta do this now, and I'm like, okay, fuck, fine. And playing against Sin is very difficult, and if you make any mistakes, you're screwed. Because once you start establishing 9 drops, such the fact that they're 30 Ks, it doesn't matter. Your cards are dead upon swing. And AoD cards are just so low that if I want to even to attempt to get rid of the Sin, I have to like combo really high. And you could just use one card to out combo me at that point.
Yeah, especially on defense. When I get the combo second.
I will say AoD has an inherent advantage in the early stages of this match where I feel like if the game goes later, like if the Sen player can get the game to go late, Sen really advantages the later stages over AoD because AoD kind of starts to fizzle out and stuff like that. But AoD has such an advantage in the early turns, like turn 1, 2, and to some extent turn 3.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of it breaks down to hand size. Because early on, like you get the leader search, you get the Bardock search, you get potentially searches from the extra card, which is top 2 cards. If they're AoD, add them to your hand. If not, put them on your deck. And since we've gotten the Janimba, that's been a nice addition to this deck. Just allowed the extra resources to your hand. I've actually for this time around have teched in 2. I always get the name wrong. It's the Overrealm for 4 Bardock, which draws 2 cards and you discard 1 or warp 1 just for the extra draw support, because that has become a problem with me in other decks as well, especially decks that like to go the long game and just tends to cause me to out resource myself. Now this is always a fun play, 4-drop.
Yeah, getting to lock the opponent's leader down is pretty nice here, especially when your opponent is at 1 energy and can't really like do anything in response. Yep, grabbing the Oceanus off the top. I think Fluff was actually watching this game. He had the buy, and he goes grabbing an Oceanus, and he couldn't see what I got, and it was just hilarious. Like he knew before I did what I was getting off the top. That just goes to show, like, I'm kind of known as the guy that just like copies everybody else when it comes to like building decks and like having ideas for things, and like Fluff is just really mastered Syn Shenron, so he kind of knew like what plays I was going to make even before I made them.
Only a small group of viewers would probably understand this reference. Maybe more. But I've just now established you as the Kakashi of our locals. From Naruto.
Okay, I'll take that. That's much more kind than what I was giving myself.
He's known as the copycat ninja because of his Sharingan eye. You do this a lot where you kind of take another deck and you kind of give your own take on it. And then most of the time that take just accelerates the deck to another level, which is really great.
This is so punishing. from Bancroft here, putting out that Bojack. That Bojack puts in an absolute ton of work in this match. Especially since if you want to dedicate the 2 energy to keep the leader tapped.
Yeah. Which I can't do this turn, unfortunately. But yeah, for future reference, if this card is allowed to stay on the board, it keeps the Syn player from gaining resources. Now, I am pushing, and once you get on a 3 life, you can just awaken, and it's just a draw 1, so it's no longer a search at that point. So it doesn't become much of a loss at that point, but still.
Yeah, and when you're on the back foot, it's a little bit better to draw a card instead of doing that top search, so you can hit some defensive cards.
And we were going over the idea of taking decks and whatnot, but conveniently, since I had that extra card already in my hand, I was able to go down to 4 life to allow myself to awaken, and then still get that swing in with the leader because it's a new instance of the card.
So Bancroft passed with 2 energy here, and kind of watching this match, there's 2 things that you have to expect. You have to expect Garlic and Android 13. And Bancroft just had a punish here. This Petrification was huge.
Yeah, this felt really, really bad, especially because I don't get the skills back on him until I think it's the start of my next turn.
Yeah, you can't attack, combo, or activate
skills. So it keeps its autos from going off, which is the strength of this 9-drop, is the autos that are attached to it. And like Bancroft was saying, this just goes to like his experience in this matchup, knowing that even at this relatively early stage of the game, this is a really solid way to punish this 9-drop, is to go ahead and spend the Petrification and discard the card. Like Fluff said, looking back, you had tons of energy last turn, and I was still on my front side. I should have expected a more defensive and controlling play line from you, considering that AoD is a really spammy deck, and you could have just kept pressuring me and forced me to awaken. But that's just one thing that's good about like reviewing match footage like this, is you get to see your glaring mistakes from like a bird's eye view, when at the table maybe you don't see them as clearly.
So the mindset really in that moment was, I thought about paying 1 energy for a Garlic on my turn, pulling out the Slug from the deck, put in there, and have 2 more swings coming at you, and then just simply being one of those swings to get my 2 energy back. But the cards in my hand, Petrification requires you to discard a card, and I have a lot of just good cards in my hand, and I wanted to hang on to I actually have another Petrification in my hand right now as well, and I just wanted to keep the cards in my hand. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to push. I'll keep him from keep him from awakening. If he has a way to self-awaken, fine, he can self-awaken on his turn, but I'll hold off, and then if I can survive this push, I'll just go into the crackback. That's kind of how I was thinking of that turn out.
Yeah, so grabbing a ball off the Oceanus is also kind of a big telegraph here, like kind of like showing my opponent what my plan is. Maybe it would be better to activate like an Ice Shenron or something and be a little bit more ambiguous about the line of play. What do you think, Fluff?
Yeah, I definitely think that with AoD particularly, he's got 1 energy open, so you know there's a high likelihood that he's probably got an Android 13, so he's probably going to counterplay whatever is coming in. So either you need to play around that Android 13 or bait it out. So in my head, I'm thinking like Nova is a perfect option here. You swung with your lead, combo on your lead, combo the ice out of your hand, play the Nova, play the ice off the Nova, bait out his Android 13, then commit to your ball play. And that would kind of be what I would go for here. You took kind of an alternate route and used the Black Power Kamehameha to hit that Bojack off the field so it wouldn't be a threat in future turns, and then went into your ball and got punished by the Android 13.
Yeah. Yeah, looking back, that play is really aggressive, and I actually can't make this play that I'm trying to make, and Fluff reminds me of that. So it's good that he was watching the game.
Yeah, this is really hard when AoD, because AoD is like pay one energy, powerful effect, pay one energy, powerful effect, pay one energy, powerful effect. And it can sometimes be hard for Syn to overcome the totality of those powerful effects over the course of these matches.
Yeah, I just like I was saying, like looking back, it's just falling right into the trap because now I'm pretty thoroughly on the back foot. He's got 3 energy, which in AOD could be 4, 5, or more like damage being threatened,
Yeah.
and like especially with like free play off the leader, he could play a unison for cheap. So and the fact that Syn is still petrified is just awful.
Yeah. And you're not going to get those on play negates. You don't get to take advantage of the fact that he's a blocker. And if I recall correctly, your hand is not gigantic at this point either.
No.
Yeah. It's just a bad spot to be in. With Bancroft's experience against the Syn matchup, you know, he's basically controlling this match at every point.
Yeah, just falling right into the spider's web. And that's the downside of like being a player that just kind of like copies other players is sometimes you don't really understand the nuances of a deck or a matchup because you like hop around so much, and an experienced opponent will like thoroughly punish you for it.
And I've said it a few times, and you know, just kind of, I don't know if it's as much your inexperience, you know, in this matchup particularly, but AOD has a natural advantage in this match, especially in those first 2 turns.
So I actually wasn't expecting a blocker negate for some reason. You said one open energy, I was expecting from other negate. And I think we talked about it later. You do play Flying Nimbus, right?
Yeah,
Or you sided in one or the other.
yeah, I sided him in.
So establishing the blocker negate, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll swing with this one first, and just trying to bait the blocker. Really, you didn't do it, but you successfully tapped my 20k. I'm like, okay, maybe I should have done the attack the other way around, but whatever.
Yeah, and this is a play that I've made in a couple of games recently on the channel is like resting a blocker during my opponent's turn to like prepare for the following turn. And all in all, it hasn't really paid off that well for me. So I feel like unless your deck is really aggressive, then that's like too aggressive of a play to make just in general.
This hurts so much because you don't get the draws off your Syn, you don't get to play the ball.
Yeah, that petrification was just disgusting. It was just so well timed, and I like looking back, it's just like clear as day it was going to happen, especially like considering the deck I'm playing against. But I think just not knowing the nuances of this matchup and just the overall like tone of the match going in, I wasn't really as focused as I normally was.
Good news is that if you can get out of this combo, AOD is tapped out and he's comboed out everything but one card in his hand. So if you're able to get out of this, you have an opportunity to kind of recollect yourself.
Yeah, especially if I can establish a new 9 drop and get to block and draw some cards and, you know, start moving up the chain a little bit.
You can see what the cards I comboed off of from my hand. The 13, the Slug, and the Garlic. And in order to play the Vegeta to get rid of your blocker, I pitch a Petrification. Like I had a good defensive turn, but I know what yellow can do if you allow it to get into a comfortable place. And I was like, I have to go all in, or this game's going to probably go on to another 2 more rounds, and I won't feel comfortable anymore. And that's why I kind of did the all in attack. I'm like, if this works, I got it. If it doesn't, Jake got me back on the crackback.
And that was a smart call. You you earned it, man. You made all the right plays. You kind of knew what I was going to do before I was going to do it, and I didn't really know the meta game that went on like between the scenes with this matchup. There I am, kind of showing my frustration that I didn't draw any floodgates.
Yeah, that would have been really good. I mean, like we talked about, like you said you didn't. I think you said you saw the miss at the very end, but it was too late for it and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have energy at the time when I got access to that forbidden power that I'm showing off there, and looking back, I made a couple really aggressive plays with White Kamehameha, and had I not done that, maybe I would have had energy, and maybe this match would have gone differently.
But with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Keep in mind there's buttons down below and place to put comments. Fill it out. Let us know what's going on. And Fluff, would you lead us out?
Of course. Good match there. Bancroft really earned that win. The experience and kind of history that he's had against Syn Shenron, especially with AoD, really paid off in his favor there. So, Jake, don't beat yourself up. That's a match that, like, even me piloting Syn, I don't know if I can beat Bancroft with AoD. Like, don't beat yourself up at all about that. As always, read your cards, know your plays. Let us make the mistakes so that you don't have to, and Fluff out.